Alright, where do I begin? Facebook, Meta, sorry, Meta. Let me bring up my notes because this is a disaster. Holy cow, where do I start? Oh my goodness. Okay. So, Facebook rebranded itself a couple weeks ago as Meta. Couple ideas as to why this has happened. Of course, there's a numerous amount. One is just the fact that they've screwed up a lot recently, and so with them renaming themselves, they might think it can give them a little bit of an opportunity to rebrand themselves and kind of start on a new foot. I mean, everybody does that to an extent, but yeah, Meta. I'm not even go to that. I'm not even going to go into the naming of Meta. So yeah, I think part of it, I mean, the biggest one going around is with like all these privacy leaks and all these issues that Facebook's been going through. Again, hoping this gives some new life to start fresh. But with Facebook's track record, trying to promote an entirely new virtual world that's privacy focused with Facebook's track record is not something that really needs to be happening. So, what exactly is the metaverse? Well, Facebook has been doing augmented reality AR for quite a while now. They own Oculus, one of the best-selling AR headsets in the world right now. Of course, it is very good, but that's their baby. And so with this is that, but taken to the extreme. So if you've seen The Matrix, if you've seen Ready Player One, if you've seen, what other movies have I listed? Really any dystopian world where everything has gone virtual. I had a friend who kind of likened it to the Flintstones. I don't know if I would really go that far. Not the Flintstones, the Jetsons. But yeah, so like I said in my notes, I'm just going to read this because I think that phrased it better when I was a lot more coherent with my thoughts at the time. Think of Oculus, Facebook's virtual reality system, like I said. Combine that with, again, Ready Player One, and yeah. So this is going to be not a video game experience, this is going to be the life. It's going to be its own universe. Each person gets their own house in it, and it's kind of a second world, a second home, if you will. And so, yeah, so combine, again, like I'm repeating myself a lot, but like I think I need to, again, partially because I'm not following my thoughts completely, but also like just to get this cemented into your head. Virtual reality, The Matrix, Ready Player One. Now, what do these all have in common? Well, The Matrix is people are the batteries for a virtual world that exists that nobody really knows exists. Ready Player One, it's a world where everyone lives with VR goggles on, AR VR goggles on, and like that's how they do their fighting. The world is falling apart in reality, but they're doing all their living, all their fighting in a virtual world. That's where everything's actually happening. You wake up, you put your VR goggles on, AR goggles on, whatever. And so, what does this really mean for us? So, again, in this world where this is happening, right now, it's just kind of something that's going to happen, not really a huge detriment on us right now, but we will get there. And like, how bad? Well, let's think about it. So many jobs are already being replaced by robots, by digital currency. I mean, money's going out of the way. Now we have cryptocurrency. Jobs are being swept away by robots. I had to write a paper on that recently. It was a fascinating paper to write. And it's like, as all this stuff moves more and more digital, I mean, we have artists that are complete robots that sound better than some of the Grammy nominated ones we have now. We've whole personas that are virtual people online, and it's terrifying. Yeah, so, but how will this actually be good as well? And then I'll go back to the negatives. Well, think about the world we've been living in for the past, oh boy, 2 years now, 3 years now with COVID. Everything went digital. Classes, virtual classrooms. Work, virtual work. Everyone was working from home. Everyone was doing digital learning. Everyone was doing virtual learning. Nothing, hardly anything was actually in person for a long time. We're starting to move back to that, but with a digital metaverse like this, we will be able to keep that a lot more digital. And so people will be able to have their own workspaces at home, and do other stuff, but have the experience of working in an office. Kind of weird, I know, but that's what Mark Zuckerberg and his team are working towards, which isn't bad per se, but it's going to make the line between having a life and having a job so much smaller, because if people are doing their jobs more and more at home, then they'll have a harder time connecting with those around them, because they will want to, oh, I'm here, I'll just pull it up for a second. They get lost in the metaverse, not physically lost, but they get like so enveloped in it that they forget time's flying by, just like people at the office now, except they'll be at home and they'll have no reason to leave. So yeah, that's terrifying. And then yeah, I mean, depending on like how popular this is, like if this becomes something that's readily accessible, it's easily priced, it's not overpriced, then as more and more people get into it, think of WALL-E. That's the other one I was trying to remember. A dystopian world where people become so engrossed in what they want in their own perfect utopias that the world around us actually starts falling apart into an apocalyptic situation. And when you think about how bad that is, but also how popular this technology will be, it should cause some concern, I think. The world's already deteriorating enough as it is, and so for this to pull people further and further away from reality, these things already do it enough. And so for us to be so fully engrossed in a virtual reality that's perfect how we want, that the world around us starts falling apart, that's something we need to actually think about. So I was reading some about the metaverse, and apparently you'll be able to make it precisely how you want. So if you don't like Apple, you don't have to see any Apple. If you don't like Tesla, you don't have to see any Tesla. If you only want to see Samsung, Huawei, and Fords, that's all you have to see. It doesn't matter what people are actually using in their reality, you won't see that, which is terrifying to think about, because if they'll do that, how bad will it go to? Will it go to the extent of, oh my gosh, that person is missing a leg, oh my gosh, that person has a disability, I don't want to see imperfect people, therefore you just don't see them? How bad will that get? And then what happens to the people that does happen to? How will they interact with people? Will they even have access to this? How about the homeless people? As if we become that virtualized and digitalized, where everything happens in a digital utopia, what happens to the actual world? What happens to the people who are homeless, who can't afford this system, who actually want to live in reality? What happens then? And I think that's something we need to take into consideration, because we can have our perfect world, but what happens to the actual world? And I think it's our responsibility as humans to not yearn after this utopia, but to take our world that God has given us and turn it in and try. I mean, obviously we do not have the physical capability, but to try and take this world and fix it. Because like, there are a lot of things we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on like spreading the good news of salvation, and we should be focusing on bettering like people's lives who are suffering. And we should focus on making everything fair for everyone and all that, to a point. But also, we should be looking at the world we're living in. Granted, like all the scientists have been trying to freak us out for dozens and dozens of years about how the Earth only has so much longer to live, but look at the world around us. There's more trash and refuse in our oceans than there's animals, and sea levels are rising, icebergs are crashing, global temperatures are rising. Granted, it does rise and then fall, but we're also on a slow and steady incline up, and it's not as bad as some people say, but we are inclining, and that's something we need to realize. So how will this impact our environment? Well, I was watching a Mr. Who's the Boss video. I'll link it down below. And the way he was talking about is how it would be good for the environment, because of how it will take cars out of the equation to an extent, and it'll take a lot of this mass transportation. But then that gets rid of jobs. Where do those millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people go? I don't know. You tell me. And if we move that digitally to where everyone's just doing everything digitally, will we need phones? All we will need is good internet and a computer and a headset. So what happens to these millions of jobs? What about healthcare? Will that become virtual too? I don't know. It's like, where does this stop? Sure, we can play, I don't know, what's the game? We can play Beat Saber, but where do we end? And I think that's just something we need to really consider with this, and how big this is going to affect our world. yeah, and so also let's think about video games for a minute. So in video games, take an RPG game. You're going around, you're shooting people at Fortnite. Um, what's the game? Call of Duty. Any of those. You go around, you're shooting people, you're just having fun. But you're looking at a screen. You're not actually immersed. So what happens when you're so immersed in something, you forget you're wearing a headset and you think you're in it and it looks so realistic, you forget it's a game. And then you take it off and you go live in the real world. How strong will these instincts be to go around and actually kill people in the real world because you forget that was a video game, not reality? How badly will this affect us? I'm not trying to be a doomsday sayer, but I'm just saying these are one of those things we need to take into consideration. Because heaven help us if we don't. We're going to be screwed. Honestly, sometimes I think we already are. But yeah, so that's my take on the metaverse and all the chaos that's going on around that. Sorry about that jump, it stopped recording. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. I will say, how do we stop this? We can't stop it, but what we can do is we can say no. We have human rights. They can't force this on us, just like they can't force the vaccine. It's a mandate, not a requirement. And so, yeah, just think about Facebook as a company. Think about how little they care about privacy. Think about the world we live in that's already falling apart because people are so engrossed in technology. And then ask yourself, do we need this world to fall apart even more? And how do we attack the elephant in the room? I don't know. Leave your comments down below. Thanks for watching this video. I know it's a little bit more of a downer, but it's something that needs to be addressed. See you in the next video. Peace.